Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to work on my Calamondin Orange tree. The Calamondin Orange is a cross between a kumquat and a mandarin, and they get those little tiny oranges that hang off the branches. I last worked on this tree in January of this year, so it's been growing the entire summer, and today I'm going to prune it back. You can see the tree grew a lot over the summer. Pretty well the top half of the tree is all new growth. So last time I worked on this tree, I picked this as the front of the tree. So I'm going to reevaluate the styling, as you should always do when you're doing pruning on a tree. So the reason I picked this as the front of the tree is it has that one upper branch that comes towards you. I'll show you that. This is the front of the tree that I marked last time. So if I rotate it around, you can see this major trunk line comes towards you a bit. And that always looks good in a bonsai to have the apex kind of coming towards you just a little bit. So I'm going to rotate it around and just check out if there's any other possibilities. Now, one thing with this tree is that it's getting kind of long and leggy. It has a skinny trunk with not a lot of taper. And the branches are getting quite thick, and this trunk line's thick, like it's almost the same diameter here as it is down here. So I could do some drastic cutting to get some better taper in this tree. I'll have to look at it and see. The only problem with this as a front is that I have a big scar here, and part of the trunk line goes back and then it comes forward again. It is possible I could use the opposite side as the front. It's a little more scar-free. And I have, even though the leader goes back away from you, I have a branch here. If I removed that whole section of the tree and made this the new leader, I would get better taper, a more compact tree, and I think that would be a better front than the opposite side, which has a few scars, some big scars down below. It's just a little more smooth and flowing the opposite side. But I would have to do that drastic cut, getting rid of that whole top of the tree. And it might be a good move. It might be the thing to do to get rid of this heavy top, compact the tree a bit. So this tree was grown from a seed. I had a bigger original tree that had fruit, and the fruit dropped onto the soil, and this germinated in the soil from that fruit. So yeah, it's been, I think it germinated in about 1995. So it's getting to be quite an old tree, almost 30 years old. I don't like doing, drastic chops, but if you don't do them, you get these kind of tall, skinny trunks without much taper. I think the root base is fine from this view. Yeah, everything tells me that's the right move, is to cut the whole top off the tree here. It's a big cut, but you can see how the scars heal over. Like this was a big cut down here, it's totally healed. This one's well on its way. There's lots of other, here's a big cut that's totally healed over. It still doesn't look very good, but you can see an older one here that's healed over, and it's starting to get the striped bark on it. So eventually you won't even tell there was a branch growing out of here. It'll just blend in with the trunk line. Okay, well, let me think about it. I don't really see any other possibilities. I mean, I could continue to grow it with the front that I picked last time, but it's getting very thick, this section, without any taper, and it's getting quite tall before I get branching. The tree was this height before, and now it's even taller. I don't think I could cut back to any of these lower branches. They're all going kind of away from the viewer. Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do, is just to cut that whole top off. So Here I go. I'm going to use the ratcheting pruners. They're precise and really good for big cuts. So I can cut on the angle here. I think right about here is good. All right. A big cut coming up. Here I go. We'll click, click, click. And there it goes. The whole top of the tree is off. These tools are great. I don't think you could get another tool that could make a precision clean cut like that through, very thick wood. I will have to do a bit of cleanup. You can see from this view there's a bump here. So I want this to heal over smooth. So I'll get out my nibblers and just kind of take that section back. And I'll make the scar a bit concave because it tends to heal with a lump if you don't. And it eventually will heal over and you'll never tell there was a cut here. Someday. Okay, that's looking good. I'll show you a close-up of the cut. There's a look at the cut. So it's fairly big, but not too bad. I think that'll heal within 2 or 3 years. So let's have a look at the tree from the front now and see how it's looking. Okay, I'll rotate the I'll rotate the tree around to what would be the front view. I think it would be somewhere, maybe somewhere here. Somewhere about there. I think the trunk line looks quite nice. So the next thing I want to do is to take this branch back. You can see it's getting way too long. It's fairly straight, not much taper. It's kind of a boring straight branch. So that'll have to get pruned back also. I'm looking at this branch now, and I have the back branch here which splits off of it, which is quite nice. And I'd like to cut the branch back to about here. I have a thorn here, and usually at the base of the thorn is a bud that will grow a new branch. So I'm going to take it back to there. And I'm just going to take a cut like this. So here I go. Another big cut coming up. Just like that. So this tree, it's been growing all summer. It has a ton of vigor in it. Lots of energy stored. So it should, burst out with all kinds of new branches all over it, which might give me more future choices, which would be good. So next I'm looking at the top of the tree here. I've got a lot of a lot going on. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 branches coming from one spot here, which isn't so good. I'll mark the new front of my tree also. So I think it's going to be somewhere about here. Somewhere that's about the front there. So if that is the front, this branch is kind of coming out not straight towards the viewer, but pretty close. So that is going to have to come off. And for that, I'm going to try out my new tool, my pruning shears that I got from Richard Bernier from Go Bonsai. So let's give it a try. These are I think my most expensive tool ever. They're just beautiful. So here I go. I'm going to cut that branch right off. Just like that. That's a good cut. Tool did a good job. Then, if I go up to the apex, here's where I got the 4 branches coming from one spot. So I've got to decide what ones I'm going to keep. This one kind of comes from the bottom and then it curves upwards. It's not very flowing, and I like deciduous trees to flow, so I'm going to remove that one. It's not a very good branch. And then I still have 3. I think I'll keep my upper 2 because they do flow upwards nicely, and remove this one. So that's gone. So now I'm dividing from 1 to 2 here. And then I can cut this one back also. So I'm going to cut it. There's a leaf node here. So I'll leave a little bit for dieback. And this one, I've already cut it once. So I'll just reduce it to this leaf here. Like that. So the only remaining branch now that I can prune up is this one back here. So first I'll clean up this stub. And I want to reduce it so it has nice taper and movement. I'll get rid of this old leaf here. And I'll at least prune the tip off here and the tip off here, like that. That's about as short as I can make it. You'll find with bonsai, if you prune into older wood, you'll get new shoots pop up anywhere on the branch if it's old enough. On young wood like this, you won't get any buds pop out in between the leaves. It's too young. But on old wood, you'll get buds pop out pretty well anywhere. So it's just something to keep in mind with bonsai. If you want to prune a branch quite far back, let it get old and woody, prune it back, and you'll get all kinds of new shoots come out off of the branch. Hopefully, anyway. So I would like this branch to fan out this direction. Everything, it goes back and then it kind of crosses. But I don't really have any choices at this present time. So that's all I can do. Here's a look at what I pruned off the tree. So there's not much left on the tree. And I sure pruned off a whole tree's worth of branches there. Yeah, some big cuts today. But I think it's, helping to set the tree up for the future. So let's have a look at the tree now. Here's a look at the tree now from the new front. So it's a bit of a stick in a pot, but it's a nice stick in a pot. It's got, a little more taper now. It's quite flowing. And hopefully, as I said, if I get all kinds of new branches pop out, I can select what ones I want to keep and develop, and might give me some more choices for branches in the future. So this tree over the summer used a lot of water. You can see there's roots all over the surface of the soil here, so it's quite root bound because it had that big top on it. It was growing like crazy. So it'll need repotting in spring. And I keep my citrus trees cool over the winter. I keep them in the basement at around 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And they just chill down there, staying dormant. And then when it starts warming up in spring, they come outside here in the greenhouse and they begin to grow. And yeah, I'm expecting a lot of growth this spring. It'll pop out everywhere. So that's a look at the Calamondin Orange tree at the end of 2024. It's still a stick in a pot, but until you get that trunk looking really good, there's no point growing branches because they'll just get too thick compared to the size of the trunk, and you get this kind of spindly looking tree. So I will put some cut paste on that big wound just to seal it up so it doesn't dry too much. So I will use the cut putty from Notion Bonsai that Adam made, and we'll give it a try, see how it goes. So I'm just trying to get some out. It's quite hard because it was cold in the greenhouse last night, but it's smearing on quite nicely. There, that's sealed up. And then I had another cut here that I could seal up. Like that. I think that's it. All the other cuts are pretty small. Well, I guess I could do this one too. Doesn't hurt to seal them up. There. Okay, so that is all ready to go back in the basement for the winter. Now we do have some warm weather coming next week. Like I said, it still gets kind of cool at night, but the daytimes are kind of really nice actually. Kind of in the 20s, so that'll feel really good and it'll help my plants. I'll probably put a lot of my trees back outside so they get sunlight on them. The longer you can extend your growing season in Canada here, the better the trees do. So especially, you know, my ficus and that, if I can get them outside for another week, that's another week they can be in the sunshine, insect free, and then eventually they have to go inside for the winter. And you try and get them through winter because it's hard. You get insect problems, you don't get the sunlight, you don't get the same air circulation around them. So it's always a challenge getting them through winter, but they always survive. It's just, you want to get them into spring as healthy as possible so they begin to grow and do well in the summer. It kind of, it builds up. If you have the trees really healthy all winter, they come into summer more healthy and they'll grow better in the summer. If you have a tree that's, you know, weak and barely made it through the winter, it kind of takes the whole next summer to kind of regain its vigor and start growing again. And then by the time it's starting to grow really nicely, it's time to go back in for the winter. So anything you can do to keep your tree healthier over the winter is a bonus. Last night it went below freezing. So on my trays of water, oh, there's still some ice in there. You can see the sheet of ice. Yeah, this was frozen on the top last night. But it's warmed up enough in the daytime now that I've got my Sarissa outside in the full sun here. So yeah, if you get a nice day and you can bring your trees outside, they're always better off for it. I know a lot of people have put their trees away for the winter. They bring them all indoors. And it takes a lot of effort and it's a lot of work to bring them back outside. And it's kind of risky because, you know, you're carrying your trees in pots and there's a possibility of dropping them. But if you've got the energy, I would recommend you doing, you know, the shuffle, taking them out on nice days, giving them some sunlight, fresh air, a good watering, then put them back in your plant room at night or wherever you keep them. And do it as long as possible until the true cold weather comes where you can't do that anymore. So yeah, my tree is a bit of a stick in a pot, but it's got some nice form going. I think, you know, it's a good thing I did this for the future of the tree. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.